Hey, this is the Nature Boy Ric Flair. And believe it or not, whether you like it or don't like it, learn to love it because you have to listen to Wrestling is Real. It is the best thing going today. Woo!
Celebrating 9 years of podcast excellence, the King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us. This is episode 725 of the Wrestling is Real podcast. I'm going to be covering right now, recapping Impact Wrestling's Bound for Glory, which I did get to watch partly while I was watching SmackDown on Friday night. And then I got to watch the last hour to catch the Women's World Title, the Knockouts World Title, and the Impact World Title matches that ended up the night. So, you know, I've been very excited in the last couple of years on the shows that we've had that Impact Wrestling's given to us for Bound for Glory. They've been good, but I felt disappointed this time. It wasn't that the matches weren't good. I think they did a good job with the crowd they had in Albany, New York. I think what they did was, when you're looking at it, the way the setup of the crowd was, like they had a bigger crowd than normal for this show. It was nice to go and see the seats around. It was a nice, good setup to see the back of the seats and all that kind of stuff going on. A different look. Because that similar set does get a little bit tiring. Like, I know they're always working in different locations, different studios, but I want to know that Scott D'Amore, when he talked about leading up to Bound for Glory, saying that he wants to go and get the shows back out to Canada and Mexico next year, yeah, we need to see these guys back in Arena, Mexico. We need to see these guys going back up to Canada, because then they're going to go ahead and get an influx on recruiting new talent. Because you'll know what happens is that when they do shows in Canada or Mexico, they're going to go ahead and make the opportunities for certain stars to be noticed and brought into the fold to Impact Wrestling to work, whether it's just for tapings for a little while or whatnot, but it'll change things up. Because what they've been doing right now, for the most part, when they worked in Nashville or they're working in different shows, and we've had this Honor No More storyline that has been festering around all year. When the AEW talent exchange ended, we basically saw that things were going to go ahead and needed to have a shakeup. Because as we said, last year we had Kenny Omega and Christian Cage consuming the Impact World title coming from AEW. And then Christian Cage facing Josh Alexander in a very good match coming out of Bound for Glory. And then seeing where things have gone since. Because the card they had at that night, and that was at Sam's Town Live in Las Vegas, which they haven't been to in a while. But the matches they had, what a difference, you know, of changes that happened. Because Josh Alexander is the one person that was, you know, from everything that was going on, right? You go back and say, okay, who was consistently at the very top of the card with what was going on? Well, put it like this. First of all, Josh Alexander took on Christian Cage and won the match in 18 minutes, 52 seconds. Moose cashes in at last year's Bound for Glory after winning the Call Your Shot Gauntlet, cashes in, takes the pin, and screws him over. And then, as we know, Josh Alexander gets the win back. He is able to come back from it, and things go to where it should be. And it was a really good story what they did with Alexander. And remember, they didn't even put him at Hard to Kill. Although, he was against Jonah. But then what they did was they decided to go ahead and just keep him off and not give him the chance to take back the world title, not until later. It wasn't until Rebellion, right? Rebellion in April is when he finally got his chance to go ahead and win the title and come in here, and he's held on to the belt since. And he's had a good run. I like what he did with Moose. I thought it was really one of his best feuds. This thing with Eddie Edwards, this thing with Honor No More, the inclusion of Heath, who wasn't even involved tonight, was he? And then you have, you know, just this thing where this faction's been around for so long, and I feel like there hasn't been much done with this group where they are, and I'm like, ugh. And even, I will say this too, it wasn't as if we, Honor No More did what they did. And, we've had a little bit of staleness in the storylines for a while. That's what I feel like things are. When I look at last year's show, and I see, okay, we don't have inspiration anymore, which that means the room now for Havoc, Rosemary, and Taya Valkyrie. Jessica. That kind of changed things up. Steve Macklin has worked his way up from being in that X Division picture, now moving up into featured feuds with the likes of Sami Callihan and Moose. And then I'm looking and I'm saying, okay, we don't see the Bullet Club now. They're no longer intertwined into things right now either. And then last year, Mickie James took on Deonna Purrazzo and beat Deonna Purrazzo, who was champion at the time. And then, it wasn't bad last year. But we did have that whole point where the Bound for Glory swerve of last year really stood out. This year, I look at where the card is and what they went with things, and I'm like, it wasn't. I mean, the matches were good. Your 2 championship matches at the end of the card were very good, and your X Division match was very good. But it's like we're bringing in some notable veterans, we're bringing in the originals that are coming back. There's not a lot of young people that are coming up into the mix here that the future of this company has. It's not like they have anybody they're building behind that's going to be that. Right now, they're just taking on some veterans that you're seeing in other promotions. With Cardona working in NXT, Bully Ray, speaking of NWA, Bully Ray working in NWA for a while. The Kingdom has fit over to NWA, so it's when that crossover's been there, and there's not a lot of exclusivity they're doing right now. And I think that's because we need Impact Wrestling to get back to going back on the road where they can go ahead and get some other stars, bring some talent over and get them to work some events, work them a taping, right? And let them go through and be on for a couple of weeks, couple of months, whatever, and put them into something and see if they pan out. Because they are kind of short on talent, on who they're able to get. And part of that could be because of the bloated AEW roster. It could be also where there's not a lot of free agents that are just standing out that are really going to be making a big thing, so we don't know about that yet. But anyway, pre-show of the night, you have Brian Myers take on Dirty Dango, who has been working around as the Dirty Sexy Boys over in NWA. And I've had a little time. I haven't had much time to go and catch the NWA shows as of late because there's been too much going on with football and wrestling and all this other stuff going on. It's been busy, very busy. Running up to Hard Times coming up. Now, I didn't watch the match, 7 minutes, but Brian Myers continues to reign here, and I guess he doesn't mind being in this spot. And there's no plans, I guess, by Impact to elevate him to anything more. So they're giving him this time. It's something to do. Okay. Then Mike Bailey is positioned to go and take on Frankie Kazarian, who is, we haven't seen him on Impact in a long time. But in AEW, he's been consistently, in a lot of matches. They might not be, ever since the split up of SCU, we haven't seen him much. But I'll tell you what, that Frankie Kazarian has been working AEW Dark and Dark Elevation. He was doing a lot of matches and was on every week. And there would be some matches that would be featured on the main part of the roster on Dynamite and Rampage. But his bulk was always doing shows at Dark and Dark Elevation. So the guy was never, not working. The guy was always working somewhere. And I know he was working the Indies too. So he was doing just fine. And to bring him in here with Speedball Mike Bailey, who has been, he's been a serviceable X Division champion. Listen, his work is great. But much like certain X Division stars, that guy has nothing behind him when it comes to building up who he is. Like for me, I'll never understand. Well, there was a couple of stars I didn't see here, and I guess just because they're working at New Japan, is, Ace Austin and Chris Bay. You're not seeing them right now because they're off into the run, and there was no Bullet Club on the show tonight. So they're not part of the picture. No, we're not part of Bound for Glory or anything like that. And Kazarian had a great match with Mike Bailey. The guy's Kazarian just is ageless. And he can still work, just like a spry X Divisioner back in the day. He's just so consistent and so good, and gets the submission over Mike Bailey. So Mike Bailey had a good run with the title, gave him some praise. Like, he's been elevated since he came to Impact Wrestling coming out of Canada and getting the chance to finally work down here in America to go and be a part. So he's done a good job. He's a good wrestler to have in that X division. And can he also continue to go up there? But it's just that there's not much of a character behind him. But I mean, you know, Impact Wrestling will take certain stars that don't necessarily need to be like over the top great talkers. But Speedball, Mike Bailey's not. And I think that's just something that's got to be worked on, because he needs that part. And maybe I just don't hear him enough. But like all the backstage stuff doesn't really make much of a difference to me. And the association he had with with Ace Austin, and kind of just working off of that. Like, there is something where Mike Bailey in that X division, I mean, he is good, but it's like we need more of a complete package out of him. And being able to be entertaining, be able to get in behind a microphone and promo, and add something more to the matches to build up the heat. That's what I need more from him. Mia Yim and Mickie James, the last rodeo for Mickie James. So she's had her matches, and look, I don't know who's going to beat her. I have no clue. When you look at what's going to go on here, you got to ask yourself, at what point do you feel like something's going to happen that, I mean, who's going to be the one that's going to be deserved of beating Mickie James and finishing a career? I don't know. But I don't like the fact, and I've said this myself, you know, it sucks that Mia Yim was getting such a good run, and Mia Yim could go ahead and be pushed up to the Knockouts division in the world title picture. Like, she could go after Jordynne Grace at some point, but they're not. And I don't like the idea of Mickie going over the Knockouts roster and going after certain stars in there. You know, just don't like it. And so I'd rather see her go outside of the company, and I'd like to see some other people brought in to face her as just one-offs. And just let Mickie James have to just take on all takers, open challenge from anywhere, not just the Knockouts roster. Because we just don't want to see Mickie James. I don't want to see Mickie James just continuously winning with beating and going over all these stars. That's the one thing I don't want. I mean, I appreciate the storyline, and people are going to definitely be in touch with what's going on. But I don't see what this is going to do for the other stars in the roster. You know, I don't want to see where it affects Tasha Steelz or Deonna Purrazzo or, Savannah Evans for a chance, or, Rosemary for, I don't know, just something like that. I just don't want to see that kind of thing going over. It's just that if you're going to continue this storyline and have her continue to win matches and survive match after match, of course you're going to have to get her to lose at a pay-per-view. Whatever that's going to be. I just don't know. That's where I'm coming from with that. Another Knockouts match with the tag team titles on the line. Death Dolls, Jessica and Tyra Valkyrie with Rosemary over Vexed. So I'm guessing that when you have the tag titles now, it's a big difference from Fire and Flavor. A big difference from, Chelsea and Deonna. Big difference with the Inspiration. Well, I guess maybe like the Inspiration. It's just that Death Dolls now, you could do the whole interim thing, have them like doing things, and then you just can always just put some other, makeshift tag team to go up against Jessica and Taya and go with that. Like, they're obviously working with each other. They enjoy working with each other. So let's go and do that. And I want to see Deonna and Chelsea go back to singles competition. I'd like to see them both be opponents for Jordynne Grace. Like, she needs the opponents. More than anything. Well, that's what they got to do, because she is the star right now in that company. She's standing out. We'll talk about Jordynne in a minute. Now, match number 4 of the night was the Kingdom, Matt Taven and Mike Bennett over the Motor City Machine Guns. And, Honor No More has to have their interference, all these things going on. It's a storyline I feel like it's losing steam. And if you look at the ratings for Impact Wrestling, they have not been great. They'll hit over 100,000 viewers, but then they take some drops. Yes, Thursday Night Football might be affecting them, sure, but usually it's not much of a difference. All I know is that I think the Honor No More storyline is getting stale. They have teased dissension with PCO and Vincent, and they didn't do anything. No breakups, no nothing. And I think they need to be doing that. If they're going to like continue the storyline, we need to have some kind of shakeup of the Honor No More faction. Like you did do the thing with Eddie Edwards being brought on board. Okay, got that. But then what you did with Eddie Edwards as a result, and I'll talk about this, is that they changed his character's result. So Eddie Edwards had to leave leave Kenny, the kendo stick, and the hardcore legend that he was, that Tommy Dreamer molded him to be, and now he turns into Eddie Edwards of Ring of Honor Wrestling? I don't know about that. I don't know if I've really enjoyed that storyline. That's part of the thing I didn't like here. And just the thing is, it wasn't, I liked it at the beginning. It was fresh, it was interesting, but, faction versus faction, and then like this, there's no super internal struggle that's like, okay, there's a little bit of strife, but then it all works itself out between PCO and Vincent and Matt and Mike and whatever. I don't know. And then, and the storyline with Eddie and Alicia, and I don't even know how Alicia in storyline can still be married to this man because of all the changes he's gone through, but, With that said, I'm kind of done with it. I want things to move along. They got the upper hand on Bullet Club. Whether it was Good Brothers, Violent by Design, and Finn Juice, remember that too. Like, it's just, we need something fresh. I don't see Honor No More being something like an NWO where they could just like keep going in storyline. You have to have some changes here. Like, I'm glad they kept it to 5 people or 6 with Maria Kanellis, but I don't think we need anything more. I just need to see something where they've been like towing the lines. The more says, oh, you got to beat Team Impact, and if you don't, then you're going to like be tossed out. Okay. It's this whole thing of like, okay, they're supposed to be invading the roster, and sure, Matt and Mike finally won the belts, and they've had them, so they hold on to those. But Eddie not winning the belt, they're not going to take it off of Josh. So what's the deal here? And Eddie's not going after the X Division title, so like, I thought they want to go and claim all the gold, just like any other faction would, but they didn't. So that's where I'm at right now. Match number 5, you have Bully Ray winning over Steve Macklin as part of a 20-person intergender Call Your Shot gauntlet match. And there was a number of people that kept bringing up here. One thing, man, they kept bringing up Joe Hendry on tape during the regular weekly show every week, the same damn commercial thing, whatever. I'm not into Joe Hendry. He is not my thing. He wasn't when his feud with Dalton Castle meant nothing to me. I haven't cared about this character. Just haven't. I don't know what the whole appeal with Joe Hendry is. Like, I can get Danhausen. I can get Orange Cassidy. I do not get Joe Hendry. I just don't. And the reason is, look, they didn't even care. Because, Eric Young comes into the match and, I'm sorry. Yeah, he comes in the match, and it's like, I don't know. He's knocked out by Moose. Not making much of a big of a deal here anyway. And I'm just looking, and I'm like, I don't know. Just kind of hear about it. Now, you had Eric Young, Joe Hendry, Steve Macklin, Rich Swann, PCO, Savannah Evans, Johnny Swinger, Tasha Steeles, Killer Kelly, Moose, Sami Callihan, Taylor Wilde, Giselle Shaw, who's also been featured quite a bit in feuds going on with the Knockouts division. So eventually you'll see her go up against Jordynne Grace, I'd imagine, down the line. And then it's Bully Ray, who comes in, Tommy Dreamer, Rhino, Bhupinder Gujjar. Heath was in the match. They did a deal with him. And Bobby Fish and Matt Cardona. I don't know. Of the people you had in there, I could look at Moose, I could look at Sami Callihan, and I could look at Steve Macklin. I thought Steve Macklin was the shoe-in for the Call Your Shot Gauntlet trophy. No. Bully Ray. And don't get me wrong, Bully Ray can still wrestle and you can still go, but it's like taking a spot for someone else. Like, that should have been Steve Macklin's spot. So Steve Macklin and Bully Ray are going to have something before we get to Bully Ray taking on Josh Alexander. I know they already went right to the tease for it at the end of the night, but like, really, we're going to just go to that next? I just don't care for that match. As long as if it's one of those things where it's like, okay, just one off at Hard to Kill. Let's just get this match out of the way. Put it at Hard to Kill. Let Josh win. Move along. We don't need to see Bully Ray with another title run. His time has already come. He was already 2-time champ. We don't need him to come back and do this again. If you want to give an opponent to Josh Alexander, okay, one time, one off, done. But that's all we need. That's really all it needs to be. And then who do you have that would come up next to take on Josh Alexander? I guess you're trying to build up Steve Macklin to be in that role. I don't know. Just like how Moose was in that role of being groomed before he had to wait for Kenny Omega and Christian Cage to drop the belt so we can get to Josh, and then to call your shot gauntlet, and then the chance to win and get the title, right? There was a part where Dreamer, Rhino, and Bully Ray together, ECW reunion, and Johnny Swinger adds a nice little moment of levity in there because obviously he was some way apart in that company too. I thought it was funny. So the first 5 matches, the X Division match was great. The other ones were like, it was just, they put storylines together, obviously, they build them, but not much vested interest on me like I would normally do for some of these matches. Especially compared to some of the matches I've seen that Impact has done, recently, where we've had some really good cards before. This time around wasn't much for me. Like I liked of this year, I did like Rebellion. I thought that was a hell of a pay-per-view. You had a lot of people, plus you had some people that just were here and left, but I enjoyed Rebellion. I enjoyed Slammiversary. I don't know, man. I just thought they had some good matches going on. Because remember, Briscoes came in to go on against the Good Brothers. Sam McCallaghan and Moose in the Monsters Ball. That was a hell of a match. That was good. The Influence losing to Rosemary Ty Valkyrie. That X Division Ultimate X match with Mike Bailey getting over on Ace Austin. Andrew Zane. Alexander, Andrew Everett, Kenny King, and Trey Miguel. What a hell of a match. And then Jordynne Grace over Tasha Steelz to become champion. Queen of the Mountain match was great. And that's one thing to be said. Where some of these matches they had. Jordynne Grace in an important match wins off of Queen of the Mountain and has held the belt since. And then Mike Bailey winning in the Ultimate X match to also be a significant win. And there still are. Mike Bailey is still going to be very relevant. Which is good. But they just did a lot more where Slammiversary was just better, and then this Bound for Glory show kind of just took a side. But no, don't get me wrong, the last 2 matches made up for everything else. So Jordynne Grace, Masha Samovich, and I've liked the Masha Samovich character so far. She has run through everybody; she's been undefeated. I will say this, man. We've seen Jordynne Grace on our screens on Impact for how many years has she been out there now? I'm trying to think. How long has she been on that roster? It's been 2018. And remember what she looked like when she first came in. She's a thick girl. Now she is I don't even know how to. She was originally built 5'3", 150 pounds. She's not now. She must be 130, 140, something like that. But she is in tremendous shape. And that's a difference from what we saw on the tapings of Impact, of the tapings they had, prior to Bound for Glory. This woman is in incredible shape. I don't know what she did to slim herself down, but she is muscular. She's toned. She's she has she has put in the work to put that body together. She's in impeccable shape, great strength. She is what a fantastic knockouts champion now. I got to tell you, she's improved in front of us. The fact that they didn't put the belt on her right away was the right move. And that's the thing. Impact, Scott D'Amore and all, they do like to do that thing where they don't like to go ahead and they have certain people that are not going to get that belt right away. Sometimes they're going to just delay. Moose got that. I don't think it was a bad idea. Josh Alexander the same way. That wasn't a bad idea. They definitely do that. And with Jordynne Grace, she comes in a Queen of the Mountain match, wins, and I'm like, she did well, and she kicked ass, and I'm like, I never paid attention so much to where she is now, and what she's done so far, but she's definitely put herself together now at a point where her matches are really good now. And she's definitely earned her spot. And I don't think there's anyone right now you could think of that could absolutely be, Knockouts champion right now that I think would really stand out. Like, if you look at the difference between what she looked like, even at Slammiversary to now, like in the last 6 months, like, she definitely has put herself together. And now, I never see where she looks like she does now, where she's in amazing shape. That was the one thing that just really amazed me when you look at her. She looked like an incredible shape. And because remember, the other thing too, you normally see her in a one-piece. She was in a two-piece outfit, so her abs were out there showing, and she's proud. You can tell she's confident. She feels great. She looks great. She had a hell of a match with Masha Slamovich. Great match with them. 16 minutes. I like this match better than the main event. I like Jordynne Grace and Masha Slamovich. This match I liked better than Josh and Eddie. And that's saying a lot. Josh and Eddie had a great match. Just went long. 30 minutes was too long for that match. But Jordynne Grace, Masha Slamovich, 16 minutes, left it all out there. They kicked their asses, man. Masha Slamovich had a lot of good near falls. They made her look good in defeat. Even with a loss, Jordynne Grace just looked unpenetrable. You couldn't budge past her. She was going to win anyway. It was all there was to it. So I really like what they do with Jordynne Grace. She's in her prime right now. And I'll tell you what, it's a good thing that Impact Wrestling has kept her on contract, because they should. I mean, she is the future of that company. All knockouts that want to go and get to somewhere, they need to all be striving to be where Jordynne Grace is right now, because she's it. I mean, she is at the level of Deonna Purrazzo, of Mickie James, of Madison Rayne, and a lot of the knockouts that preceded her, right? When you go on you're going to Gail Kim or Taylor Wilde. I mean, there's a lot where just like she is on that upper echelon right now. She's one of those top knockouts. And it's the epitome. What Impact Wrestling does best, they are great at the knockout roster. The knockout roster, and there's been times when it's been kind of light, especially during Billy Corgan's phase. But I'll tell you what they do with an Impact roster, I mean, it's so incredible. The talent, and like that women's match, that's as good as any match you'll see in WWE or AEW. Like, actually, that's a better match than you'll see in AEW. And AEW's got some great talent, don't get me wrong. But that match, I mean, it just stood out. It really was one of the better women's matches I've seen all year. That's how I really felt about it. And it was tough. It was physical. Fantastic. Now, into the match with Josh Alexander and Eddie Edwards. Impact World title. Josh Alexander comes away with a win. You have the interference with Honor No More. And it's like, okay, whatever. For me, I didn't want to see, I just can't see Eddie Edwards anymore doing matches that are not the hardcore persona, or at least he's kind of like going wild and crazy. This subdued, evil kind of, heel Eddie Edwards. I mean, it's fine, but it's like, it's not what it was. It's a drastic change to me. Just because he needed to be inserted into Honor No More, I don't know. But overall, the match was good. There were none of the matches I felt, felt bad to me, but I want to be vested interest into these matches. I just didn't feel that way with this show. But I'll tell you this, even though you have all these other stars that are veterans, with Frankie Kazarian now holding the X Division title, with Bully Ray now the next contender to the world title, Josh Alexander, Jordynne Grace, that is the epitome of what Impact Wrestling will do. They got two solid champions for the knockouts and for the men. Really do. And all you got to do is just keep building them up. Who are the next people to go on board? So if you got Bully Ray, sure. And with Jordynne Grace, I don't know. You got lots of women that can go after her and continue to go after her and see what happens. So there's no shortage. But I think if they're able to get back out to Canada, Mexico, and see where things go with that, I really want to see what happens, because that'll be great for them. Because they really need to do something with that to hold up and really just stand out altogether. Anyway, the next incarnation of Hard to Kill for 2023 it's already been scheduled, and they announced that it's going to emanate from Atlanta. So I don't know if that's going to be center stage or if it's somewhere else, but I'm guessing it's going to be center stage. So they'll have that Friday, January 13th. That's their next big pay-per-view. And then they have another show coming up in November. Of course, they're Impact Plus pay-per-views and all. But there you go. The show, for me, I need to see some younger stars continue to keep being built up. And, your titles right there where you have is good. Kazarian could really help a lot of that younger roster. Maybe he can help with Mike Bailey. Maybe he can help with Trey Miguel. Maybe he can help with, Chris Bay. Who knows? But let's see where he goes with it. I'm curious. I think Steve Maclin needs to get some more of a push. You keep him getting involved. If you got to have him and Sammy Callahan at each other, go for that. Something. And actually, we haven't had a Josh Sammy feud, have we? So let's do that. I want to get into that at some point, huh? Sammy Callahan's always good for these kind of things. Let's get him in there too. All right, we're going to leave it there. Now, I'm recording this Bound for Glory episode tonight, and now I got to wrap this up. And I'm also going to be putting out, at the same time as this Bound for Glory post show, I got the post show for WWE Extreme Rules, which is just finished as I record this, and the return of Bray Wyatt. So there's a lot to say about that. Stick around and listen for that. I'll have that up on the YouTube channel, and everything will be over at WrestlingGoesReal.com. Just look for it right there, and you'll find it all out. So thanks for listening in. I know all of you that like these Impact Wrestling post shows that I like to do every time these major shows come around. I appreciate all of you for listening in as you do. It's really great. And I know it's kind of tough to find some good coverage out there, but I watch the show. I mean, it is a little bit tedious because I'm watching Thursday Night Football at the same time as Impact, but I am watching both, and I'll keep an eye on stuff. So, another WrestleGoes podcast coming up if you are checking it out. So you're going to have two to listen to going into Sunday morning. Enjoy, and come back for another WrestleGoes podcast because wrestling needs us. Thank you for listening to the Wrestling is Real podcast. You can find all previous episodes at WrestlingIsReal.com or subscribe to the show on all major podcast outlets, including Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Follow the King of Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at King of Podcasts, and search King of Podcasts on YouTube, or type youtube.com/JBRASCO951. This has been a presentation of the King of Podcasts Radio Network.